We appreciate your all of the help that you've given everybody, Yomam V'Layla, during these past few weeks, and for making time for us today to speak with us. We have a number of questions that have already been submitted by Chaverim since we've announced this, and I'll be keeping my eye on the Q&A panel in case there are follow-up questions that need to be addressed. So the first, I've been asked to ask you just to, if you want to spend a moment to discuss the issue of Zoom on Yontif. We saw your written psak, but if there's anything you want to say or add to that, those comments.
I think to stand in front of a video camera in order that my face should appear somewhere else is an issue of ksiva. If I stand in front of a mirror, it's just a reflection, so that's not ksiva. But if I stand over here and you can see me a block away, that's ksiva. It's not shel kayama, so it's not going to be a malacha deraisa, but it'll still be malacha midrabanan. The Rambam writes that if one tzar tzura, if a person draws a picture, that's also a violation of kosev. So we only permit malacha derabanan if you have a sakana saver. If anything less than a sakana saver, we don't allow it. So look, if you have a person with a real suffix sakana means that the rabbi speaks to a doctor or speaks to a psychologist, and they think there is a real possibility the person will commit suicide, which is rare, but that exists. Or if a person, Rav Soloveitchik said, a chiddush in the name of Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, that even if a person will not lose his life, even if he'll just become totally incoherent, then he will lose his seichel. He won't be able to talk normally. He'll be meshuggah. So that's also considered to save a person from shigoin, even though the shigoin doesn't have a danger to his life. So although Rav Moshe Feinstein writes, based on a Rashi and Tainus, that that's not considered pikuach nefesh, but Rav Soloveitchik thought b'shem Rav Chaim that that's considered sakonas nefesh. That's also called pikuach nefesh. So if the rabbi consults a doctor or a psychologist and they really think that there's either a suffix of suicide, suffix to shigoin, then you're allowed to do whatever is necessary. You're allowed to call on Shabbos and Yom Tov to save the baby. You're allowed to drive over to save the person's life. But if it's just nothing like that, then it's not the suffix sakana. It's just if the person feels uncomfortable, he's all by himself. So that's not right to do a malacha, to feel more comfortable, to have a Yom Tov, we would prefer to have a Simchas Yom Tov, but you're not allowed to violate real dinim for that. They told me that there was some girl who's blind, who's all by herself, and because of the corona situation, so no one's allowed to go visit her. So she doesn't know the Haggadah by heart. I don't know the Haggadah by heart. So how can she recite the Haggadah? Okay. So if she'll leave her telephone on from before Yom Tov, and then someone will recite the whole Haggadah for her over the telephone, so preferably she should say word for word after them, okay? So then to talk on the telephone that's already connected, that's Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was of the opinion that that's only a minig. That's not really an issur, even midrabanan. That's not even a malacha midrabanan. Okay, so I can see in such a case where she simply can't fulfill the mitzvah without having somebody talk on the phone. I doubt that they'll allow, I don't know, would the telephone company leave the phone connected to someone else's phone till the second night of Yom Tov also for more than 24 hours? I doubt that they'll allow it. It probably won't stay on so long. So that's maybe there's room even to be makel to call on Yom Tov for such a situation, such a shas adchak. Shlomo Zalman seems to hold not only talking on the phone is only an issur mitam minig, even dialing the phone, making the connection, it's not misaken mana, it's just you're using the kli. You're using the kli and not making the kli. Okay. But preferable is, at least for the first night, that they shouldn't do that. Preferable for the first night, they should leave the phone open between connecting for this woman. But if there's no chashash, you're not talking about a blind person who simply can't make the seder. There was a question for there are a lot of Baalei Tshuva who never saw Seder before. They just became Baalei Tshuva this year, or they're considering doing Tshuva. They never saw Seder before. So I told them they should make videos. There must be videos available online to watch a model Seder. Let them watch it. We have still 2 weeks. Today's Rosh Chodesh. Let them watch a model Seder online and 10 times, and they'll see how to make a Seder. Okay, if they have a Haggadah, and they watch a video, so they'll know how to make a Seder. So I don't really think that there's a need for them to have such a hookup. Look, they should make it available. Some Rabbanim and Eretz Yisrael think that it's even mutter, not for a person who's blind. So let the people decide if they are. I'm not familiar with those Rabbanim. If they want to follow those Rabbanim, because don't they hate? But I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right.
Thank you. Just to clarify, most of our shuls, or all of our shuls now have security cameras that are running on Shabbos. Is that a different situation because of the potential sakana, because it's a malacha, because it's a davar she'eino miskaven, or a psikresha lo nichale, or those cameras would be different and not be a problem?
Right. There's a Mishnah in Masechah Shabbos where the Mishnah says there are 3 cases in the Mishnah where it says potter. Usually when it says potter, it means potter of alasser, except for 3 cases. That's the Gemara in Shabbos on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. Shmuel says that 3 cases where it says potter is potter of mutter. So one of the 3 cases is noelas beiso and imtzat tzvi shama betocho. That I went to shul in the morning, on Shabbos morning. I locked the door. Then it turns out later on, I didn't even realize it. There was a deer trapped in my house. By my closing the door, I trapped the deer in the house. So it's mamish misasek. I didn't even realize at the time that I closed the door that I'm trapping a deer. So misasek, you're not chay b'chatas. Misasek is a poter muta. Fine. So there's a Rashba in that Gemara. That's around Daf Kuf Vav or something, in the early Kufs. I think it's before Kuf Yud, between Kuf and Kuf Yud. So the Rashba says on that Gemara that even if you know in advance that by locking the door to protect your furniture, you're trapping a deer, even if you know in advance, it's mutter. And even if you're interested in trapping the deer, but your main interest really is in locking the door to protect your belongings. And as a secondary interest, you want to trap the deer also, it's also permissible. So the Ran on the Rif quotes this Rashba. He says, what in the world is he talking about? He says, it's a secondary interest to trap the deer. Of course it's prohibited. That's mamish tzeidah. How can that be permissible? That's an isam in Torah. It can't be mutter. And even the first case where he knows in advance that the deer is being trapped, but he's not interested, so that should be a psikresha de lo nichale. So that we know is a machlokes between Taisus and the Aruch, and we know we avoid it. If you really get stuck in a big shas atrak, so then there's room to be makel, possibly like the Aruch. That psikresha de lo nichale is mutter. But lachatchila, certainly you don't allow that. How can the Rashba say that it's mutter legamre? It's a machlokes Taisus and the Aruch. So a lot of achrayim make a hachro. Yeshua's Yankif and Avnei Nezer and Rabbi Chana Vasim and a few other gedolim make a compromise with psak halacha. That if you know in advance that you're trapping a deer and they're interested in trapping the deer as a secondary interest, so that for sure we follow the Ran. That's a malacha deraisa. He's closing the door in order to trap the deer. That's a dover hamaskavi mamish. We can't accept that Rashba. But the other half of the Rashba, that even though I know in advance that the deer is being trapped, but I'm not interested in it, so the Ran argued that should be a psikresha lo nichale, that should be avoided because it's a machlekes Taisus and the Aruch. So that a group of achrayim make a compromise. They say no. Even though usually we try to avoid a psikresha de lo nichale, but this is better than psikresha lo nichale. Psikresha lo nichale, I'm doing the malacha biyadayim. Here, I'm not touching the deer. I'm closing the windows and closing the doors. And by doing a pu'ula on the door, this does tzeidah on the deer. I'm not handling the deer. The malacha is, the tzeidah is on the balchai. I'm not handling the balchai. I'm doing over here. So they say, whenever I'm not handling the thing where the malacha occurs, So that's better than a psikresha l'nichalai. My pu'ula on the door doesn't relate to the deer if I'm not really interested in it. So that's what they say. Whenever someone walks in front of the Kosel HaMaravi on Shabbos, so his face or his body appears on the screen in New York. I can watch the website where they have the Kosel HaMaravi 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They have it all the time. And there are people walking there on Shabbos, and their image appears over here. So you should tell people they're not allowed to walk in front of the. So when they first put up the security cameras by the Kosel HaMaravi, and you can see in America, you can see everybody walking there. So some of the Rabbanim said it's a psikresha l'nichalai. You're doing ksiva, but you're walking in front of the Kosel. The people in America can watch you on the screen. So you're doing ksiva, and it's a psikresha l'nichalai. Machlekes Tosfos in the Yorech, so we should avoid it. So the other Rabbanim finally decided, no, we rely on the Avnei Nezer with the Yeshuas Yankev, with this group of Gedolim, who say, if I'm minding my own business, I'm walking in front of the customer, I'm not touching anything. But because they have ultraviolet rays or whatever, they have things shooting at me, and therefore it makes an image in New York on the website, I'm not doing that. So if I'm minding my own business, I'm walking my own in front of the Kosel, I'm walking in shul, I'm not interested in making my image appear. Other places are on the video. They make a tape of the video makes a tape of everybody who walked into the shul. So that's better than a psikresha l'nichalai. Since I'm not handling it biyadayim, that's a better heter. But here, if want me to stand in front of the video, that the people in the other block should be able to see me, the way I pick up the becher, the way I say kiddush. So that's ksiva. It's ksav she'eino shel kayama, but it's still, because it's going to disappear right away. It's not going to be of a lasting nature. That's ksiva midirabanan. So ksiva midirabanan, and it's adova hamaskaven. He wants his image to appear in the other place. So that's not proper. That's a malacha midrabanan. So we only allow a malacha midrabanan by sakana sever. In Shulchan Aruch, there are different opinions when you makel. So it says in order to be mater and malacha deraisa, you have to have at least a suffix or a sekseka of a suffix sakana. To be mater malacha derabanan, you have to have at least sakana sever or worse. And to be mater something that's only a gzeira, so then if a person is a chol she'ein b'sakana, it's already muta. So you have to know what's a gzeira and what's a malacha midrabanan. So if you do ksiva she'eino shel kayama, the pashtus is that that's a malacha midrabanan. Gzeira would be you're not allowed to climb on a tree. So that's, what are you going to say? Everyone who climbs on a tree is in violation of kotzer. He didn't do ktsira at all. That's only a gzeira. Or you say a person is not allowed to take medicine on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Gzeira shemi yishachik salamanim. So what are you going to say? Whoever swallows a pill is a violation of tochen midirabanan. He didn't do any tochen. He can't even say it's a malacha midirabanan. The worst it can be is a gzeira. So whenever something is only a gzeira midirabanan, so then it's mutar even for a chol she'ein b'sakana. You have different gemaras, and that's what it adds up to. Different gemaras say, let's say to play music on Shabbos is a gzeira midrabanan. Gzeira shemi yisaken klei shir. You can't say that by playing music it's misaken mana midrabanan. He didn't do any tikkun mana at all. It's a gzeira shema. It may lead. The next step may lead. So playing music is only a gzeira. It's not a malacha midrabanan. Right. So you have to figure out what's a malacha midrabanan, what's a gzeira midrabanan.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. There's a few very important medical questions. The first with regard to respirators, hospital ethics committees are now turning to chaplains and rabbanim to get their insight into the issue of triage. There's a shortage of respirators. Rahman al-Islam, there are many, many people who may need the respirators, and choices have to be made. So what are the standards by which those choices are made?
My impression is that if they already gave the respirator to a person who 95 years old, and he doesn't really stand too good a chance of surviving, and even if he survives, he's 95 years old. So he's already on the respirator now, or he has dialysis 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. He's always on dialysis, and they need the machine for someone else. So if you take him off of the dialysis, you take him off of the respirator, that's mamish ritzicha. So you're not allowed to kill him, even though he doesn't have so much longer to live. Even though right now he's mamish a goyses b'dei shamayim. Goyses b'dei shamayim means a person who's going to die from the sickness that he has. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin 1, who kills a goyses b'dei shamayim is chayiv misa. That's real ritzicha. So you're not allowed to take him off of the respirator, even if a younger person comes in who needs the respirator just temporarily, and then his life will be restored, and he stands a much better chance of surviving. I think you're not allowed to. That's the din in Bech Nefesh Mipnei Nefesh.
Right,
but when an older person comes in and he needs a respirator, I know within 2-3 hours I'm going to need this respirator for a younger person. We don't have enough respirator. We're going to need it for a younger person. Mm-hmm. So I think you shouldn't give it to the older person in the first place, even though right now the older person is here. But I know there's going to be younger people. Every hour, more and more people are brought into the hospital. So I would think that I should not give the respirator to the older person who stands a poorer chance of surviving. I should hold it, because if once I put him on the respirator, I can't take him off. And I know that younger people are going to come in. So I shouldn't put him in the first place on the respirator.
Okay, thank you. Some are suggesting that all severely ill COVID patients automatically be made DNR because of the risks to the medical staff. COVID becomes airborne during such a code, and resuscitation efforts use up many resources, and it is either not often successful, or somebody had sent me an email quoting his wife, who was a nurse, that it's never successful. Can we support such a position?
If the doctors think that that's the case, look, I have no idea. If the doctors think so why should we waste our time? We're not getting anywhere. We're going to get sick. It's a sakana that we're going to get sick. And at the end of the day, you only deal with a patient if you stand a reasonable chance of saving his life. But if it's such a slim chance, and you're going to get sick, and you won't be able to help other people. So there's no mitzvah to save the first person. I think, but you have to find out whether that's true. You have to consult a few doctors and take the consensus.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Regarding, there are women who are on birth control pills which stop them from bleeding. Is it possible for them to, is it mutter for them to extend taking the pills to prevent entering into the status of nidus? And the second question is, if the projections are correct, this extends for a long period of time, can women who are not otherwise taking birth control go on birth control pills to avoid a nidus status?
I would think it's a good idea. I would think yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because they're going to be afraid to go to the mikveh. I don't blame them for being afraid to go to the mikveh.
Okay. We'll get to the mikveh in a moment. I just have a couple of more medical questions. A mother is in the hospital with COVID-19. She's in the ICU and she just gave birth to a boy. The baby has not yet been tested. The doctor who called this particular rabbi said they really are not equipped to test a newborn yet. He wants to know if they should wait with the bris until we know for sure that the baby is healthy. The father also tested positive for COVID-19.
And there's a possibility that the baby also has it.
Well, the baby was exposed. We just don't know whether or not the baby is symptomatic.
Okay, why not? Look, if the doctor thinks that there's such a suffix sakana, and doing the bris will cause a bigger sakana, so you postpone the bris. I thought they said that babies don't get sick with this. I thought they said the youngest person who died from this was 14 years old. I thought the younger you are, the less chance you have of getting sick with this. Right. If the doctor, though, is concerned, okay.
Yeah, there was on the news yesterday that there isn't a newborn that is symptomatic.
Okay. Then let them postpone the bris. Good.
Thank you. There's a couple that's expecting a baby any day now. If she goes into labor on Shabbos, they're concerned about taking an Uber. They don't want to expose themselves to the Uber driver or to a strange car. Can the husband drive her to the hospital? And if he does that, he'll have to return home because the husbands now are not being allowed into the hospital and into the delivery rooms.
He has no choice. He has no choice. If she's afraid of a suffix sakana to go in an Uber, so the husband has to drive her, okay? And if he has to protect himself, if the only place for him to protect himself is to come back home, he has no choice, okay? So come back home.
Okay, thank you. There was a question from somebody, husbands are not allowed in the delivery room these days. Would it be mutter if it was possible? I don't know how it's possible. People are very busy. If there was some kind of video so that he could be there for his wife.
What do you mean? On a weekday?
On a weekday. I'm sorry. Yes, on a weekday.
Yeah, why not? If she thinks that that's going to give her more comfort, okay.
Okay, thank you. I want to turn to a few questions in Taras HaMishpacha. More and more women are becoming nervous about going to the mikveh. If they're okay in waiting, should we encourage them to do so? Is it permissible for a woman to refuse to go to the mikveh under these circumstances? And would it be usher then if she refused for us to make her feel guilty or to put undue pressure on her to go?
No, if she wants to postpone for health reasons, let her postpone. Okay, but they have to be careful to observe all the dinim, all the harchakas.
Okay. Many of the mikvahs in smaller towns have volunteer mikvah attendants. Somebody informed me that in his particular community that these volunteers are afraid to serve as attendants because they're afraid of being exposed. Even though with our guidelines, women who have exposure should not be going, but they're afraid to go. And so what do we do in a place where there's no one to serve as a mikveh attendant? Would women be permitted to be tovel by themselves alone?
In Shulchan Aruch, I think they recommend the husband should go. Strictly speaking, the husband is allowed to go because even though she's going to be undressed, but it's only for a few minutes, then she's going to be tovel in the mikveh. So if the husband and the wife are together in the same apartment and they're both healthy, so let the husband go and make sure that she's tovel properly.
Mm-hmm. If a woman decides to go to let's say to the ocean or a natural body of water that would be kosher for a mikveh, can she wear a loose-fitting robe while she is being tovelet?
A loose-fitting what?
A robe, some kind of, because
yeah, sure.
It's during the day and she's exposed to people.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you. We had a question. A woman in this rabbi's community has permanent tips for her fingernails that would need to be professionally taken off before going to the mikveh. She's unable to do it herself without tearing her own skin. Since there are no salons that are open, can she go to the mikveh with these nails? What can she do?
She probably may. It's strictly speaking, it's a miut she'eino makpid. She would normally not take them off, no? So it's only a miut of the bodies. Miut she'eino makpid, nikar adin is not a chatzitza. The minig is that the women are machmer on everything. But since Mikra Adin, it's mutter, so you got no choice. It's a miut she'eino makpid, so it's not a chatzitza.
Okay, thank you. A variation of something that I asked you before, a woman is on the front line as a doctor or nurse, and therefore is not allowed into any of the mikvaos because she has been exposed to the virus. The ocean is cold, it's not available at night, it's not sanua during the day. Are there any suggestions that we have?
I have no suggestions. No, what can you do?
Okay, but she can wear a loose robe or a loose garment while she's in the ocean, so at least that's a nearest problem.
For sure.
That's a problem.
Yeah, she should go in the daytime when it's warm. We don't want her to get pneumonia. She go in the daytime when it's warm, have a husband drive her in the car, and then be tovel with some loose clothing on, yeah?
Right. Let's go back to the question. When the husband comes home on Shabbos from the hospital, can he turn the car off?
I think he got no choice. He should turn it off like they shinui. However you do that, okay, with the left hand. If he's a righty, he should take out the keys with the left hand, yeah.
Okay. I want to turn to a few questions with regard to Avelis and Chevra Kadisha and things. Must an Avel sit on a low stool if there's nobody else in the house, if nobody is visiting? And if he doesn't have to, then what if he's talking to people over Zoom, for example, and they're able to see him?
No, I think that's not only a din when the Menachemim come. That's the Avel is not allowed to sit. There's a din of Kviyas Amita. So you're not allowed to sit on a Mita Sheina Kfuya. So even though there's no din of Kviyas Amita on a chair, so Taisus says in Moed Katan, Ikra din, you're allowed to sit on a chair. But that's the minig that just like you're not allowed to sit on a Mita Sheina Kfuya, so we don't sit on a chair either. But that's all day long. That's not only when there are menachmim there. I think that's all the time. Unless he has a bad back and it's hurting him, okay? Mm-hmm. So then you can be makel. But otherwise, he shouldn't sit on a chair the whole shiva.
Okay, thank you. Rabbi writes in that there's pushback from some of the local Chevra Kadishas about the procedures. Given that our poskim have shut down shuls because of the risk of transmission, what Rav Schachter say about people getting together to do, people who are now afraid of performing taharas? Many Chevra Kadisha, had people who are over 60 years old who can't go out and can't participate now. What happens in a community where you're not going to get enough people to do a tahara?
So you don't do the tahara. Look, a tahara is a beautiful minig, but if it's a suffix sakani, you don't do a tahara. We're happy that we're able to bury them. You just bury them in shine without a tahara.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to kavura, because there are so few people that are permitted at the cemetery, I would imagine that would mean also that we're not makbid with regard to the non-Jews being misasek with the aron, with the kavura, and those types of things, if that's the only way.
You have no choice. It's more bekovedik for the mace to be buried al yedei Israel. If you got no choice, like Yantav Rishon, you bury al yedei amamim. So when you have no choice, so you have the nachem do the kavura.
Mm-hmm. Okay, somebody just wrote in a question with regard to the mikvahs. So I want to go back to that for a moment. Because we want to have the opportunity to wipe down surfaces between women coming in, et cetera, and there may not, and if there's large demand for the mikvah, would it be okay lechatchila to establish as a practice that we make appointments not only at night but also day 8?
Sure, you should have dafka only by appointment, and make sure that there's quite a few minutes in between the women who come. Yeah, they should do all the preparation at home and just use the mikveh premises to be table in the mikveh, and they should make sure they clean out the room in between one person and the other. Sure. Okay. But they should have appointments even in the daytime.
Okay, with funerals taking place via the internet, to people seeing the cemetery online who haven't seen the cemetery in 30 days, make it the Asher Yatzer Etchem B'Din. Hello?
Again.
I'm sorry. If we haven't been to the cemetery in 30 days, there's a bracha that we recite a bracha of Asher Yatzer.
Yes.
If one sees the cemetery over the internet, is that bracha received?
Chacham Ovadia writes about that. Let's say I haven't seen the Koisel Amaravi in 30 days, so you have to rip Kriya again when you see. So what if you see live on the screen? So he writes it's a suffix. So he says he doesn't think the suffix. Whenever you have a suffix Kriya, so you don't rip Kriya. So he said the same thing. Let's say if I saw the Koisel Amaravi today and then I go there within 30 days, so maybe that's called Riyah, so maybe I saw it already, maybe I don't have to rip Kriya when I go again. So whenever there's a suffix, you go L'Kula. So here also it's a suffix, so you say suffix brachas L'Hokel, I would think. Just like suffix Kriya is L'Kula, so suffix brachas also L'Hokel.
Right. Okay, thank you. A number of questions with regard to kashrus and Pesach. With regard to the Kalim mikvah, should we be advising people that before they rely on mechira to a non-Jew, that they should first determine if there's a natural body of water that's available for immersion?
Yes, if they live near the ocean. If they live near the ocean, let them be toivel in the ocean. But they have to be careful that that there's water on top and on bottom and no chatzitzes and so on, yeah. Here, I live in Washington Heights, so the mikveh in Broyers is open. They put in bromine in the water. And you just have to be careful not to touch any surface. And when you come home, you wash your hands and so on.
Okay. Now, we've also recommended to people with your advice with regard to selling kalim to a non-Jew or being mafkir or gifting it to a non-Jew. Is there a preference of those three options of selling or of gifting or of being mafkir? Is there a preference for which we should take advantage of first?
Selling or gifting, you have to deal with the non-Jew. So I'm locked up in the house. I would rather not deal with anybody in person. I would opt for the third one, of being mafkir them. I don't have to come in contact with anybody else. We should avoid contact as much as possible.
Right.
Thousands of people are dying here, so we shouldn't look for trouble.
Right. The Beis Din of America came out yesterday with a shtar online to allow people to sell their kalim, that they would do that for individuals, so it would be possible to sell to a non-Jew and not have the personal.
Okay, good. So that's better. Better to sell to a non-Jew than or better to gift to a non-Jew or sell or gift, same thing, rather than to be mafker. Hefker is a chiddush that it helps. Selling to a non-Jew or giving to a non-Jew, that says in Shulchan Aruch, everyone agrees to that, yeah, so that's certainly better. If you don't have to be in touch, you don't have to be in contact with the non-Jew, okay.
Okay. There's a question with regard to koshering dishwashers for Pesach. If the sides are plastic, if the sides are metal, if the racks are plastic or the racks are metal?
Rav Moshe Feinstein had a suggestion of a chumrah, even though he felt you can kasher plastic for treifus all year long, but for Pesach he thought that you should be machmer. But my impression is that it has not been accepted, generally speaking. I think here in Broyers they recommend that you should not kasher plastic. But I think it's usually assumed that you do. I think they owe you also. When they used to give hashgachas on hotels for Pesach, they would permit hagola on plastic kalim. So the inside of the dishwasher often is plastic, so we allow hagola on that. Or if it's metal, even though there was a period of time that they told Rav Moshe Feinstein that the inside of the walls of the dishwasher have a cheres in them. What do you call it?
Porcelain.
Porcelain in them. So he said it has porcelain, so you can't do hagola. Then years later, they told him it's a blend of different materials, and the percentage of porcelain is less than 50%. That the roiv is that it's metal. So the Rav Moshe said, that's what I was told. The Rav Moshe said, if it's a blend of different materials, so then the poskim all assume, based on the Mishnah and Kalim, you have to decide, is it a kli cheres and it's mekabel tuma one way and you can't be toivel in a mikveh, or is it a kli mateches and it's mekabel tuma in a different way and you can't be toivel in a mikveh. So the Mishnah talks about such a thing. If it's a blend of different materials, that you go basar roiv. So Moshe felt like the other poskim, that with respect to kashering is also the same thing. That if it's partially porcelain but mainly metal, so then you can kasher it. The thing is that Ashkenazim have a chumrah that we don't kasher glass. My dishwasher has a glass window in the front, so all the water bounces on the glass and it bounces back on all the dishes. So Ashkenazim are machmer, the Ramah is machmer. It started my mekel that the glass is not balei at all. You don't even have to kasher at all. But Ashkenazim are machmer. We treat glass like a cheres that you can't do hagol. So if you have part of the walls on the inside of the dishwasher is a glass window, then we're machmer that you can't do hagolah.
With regard to the glass, b'shas adchak, if a person is making Pesach for the first time and has glass, so is there any room for him to be maker with regard to that, or not?
The truth of the matter, we know the Rishonim had an argument, how much is it bolea? The truth of the matter, we know that the Mechaber is right, that the glass is hardly bolea at all. hardly balei at all. So really, it's a chumrah, mikar adin, and it should really be mutter. We should really say that it's not balei at all. So look, if a person really needs it, a lot of times a dishwasher is just a luxury. What did our mothers do? What did our grandmothers do? They didn't have any dishwasher. They lived without. But if a person feels that he really needs it, okay, there's room to be makel b'shas hatchak because it's only a minig. Minhagim are binding mitam neder, but Dogel Mervava writes on the side of the Yeridei Siman Reish Yudala, that Siman, where the Shulchan Aruch has adopted the Shitas Taisus, that a minig is binding mitam neder. So the Neder Yehuda writes in the Ha'oris Dogel Mervava that it's self-understood if you get stuck in a big shas hatchak that you never intended to observe the midas chasidus there. So here also, look, if a person really is overwhelmed, they're going to have to wash all the dishes by hand. They won't be able to use a dishwasher. So if they really consider it a shas hatchak, then there's room to be makel on this ramo about not being able to kasher glass. Mm-hmm. Many hold that glass is not balei at all. We know that as a fact. And even if it would have been balei, many hold that hagola can help. So we have a double chumrah. We treat glass as if it is balei, then we treat it as if it were kli cheres, and you can't even do hagola. So it's really a chumrah. It's really a midas chasidus. So if it's really a big shas hatchak, so then there would be room to be makel.
Okay, and you would say the same thing would apply, for example, to a glass cooktop. People who have an electric stove and have a glass cooktop that can't be covered. So
okay,
kind of shas hatchak.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
But we shouldn't be quick to, if it's really shas hatchak, we have to determine, each person is different. Is it really a shas hatchak? Okay.
Right. You were quoted as saying, I think it is better to figure out an eitzah regarding tevilas kalim rather than to kasher the chametz kalim. What is your concern about kashering kalim?
Do people really know how to kasher kalim? It has to be boiling hot water. You have to make sure there are no cracks where the biyan can be there. It's a problem. I think it's better to buy new pots and pans, and then it can't be toivel kalim. So yeah, you fill out the Bezdin document, and you have someone else sell it to the nachri, or you mafker it until everything blows over. I think it's better to avoid the hagola. Because you got to really know how to do hagola. In Shulchan Aruch, they have the expression, "Ein lahagil ela b'fnei bal hagola." You have to do hagola in the presence of a rabbi who knows all the dinim. It's not so easy to do hagola. You have to know the dinim. So I would recommend to stay away from the hagola for the balabatim.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. With regard to Bir Chametz this year, of course, the community Bir Chametz that takes place in many shuls will not be happening. And so, would you suggest that we suggest to our balabatim to burn the 10 pieces of bread in a barbecue, douse it with lighter fluid? It'd be better to tell them just to flush it down the toilet. But when it comes to garbage which is left over, should we recommend to them to pour bleach or something on it to make it that it's ein roi la'achila?
I think we should plan it out in advance. That we should throw out as much chametz as we're not going to save, and the garbage days in advance to make sure it's going to be picked up by the garbage collectors. If you throw it in the garbage on Erev Pesach, they're not going to pick it up so fast. So make sure we throw it out early enough. And then other chametz that's not going to be destroyed, we should put away and sell it to the goy. We should have just a minimum amount, a kazayis to not to have too much chametz, and crush it up, make sure it's not going to clog up our toilets, and then to flush it down the toilet, I think is better. The din really is, we paskin in hashbasasa b'chol dover, the Mishnah quotes the machlekes of Yehuda and Chachamim. Yehuda says, ein bir chametz ala b'sreifa. And we really paskin hashbasasa b'chol dover. So in the days of the Tanaim, it's clear in the Mishnah, the minig always was that they burnt the chametz. But I don't think it's a smart idea that everybody's going to make a little fire, so that it's going to be a fire hazard. And I'm afraid it's going to cause more anti-Semitism, that they're going to say as if the Jews, because of their religion, don't care at all for the whole the whole tsar, that the whole world is shori b'tsar, and they're just going on with their religion. They're making fires all over the place. I'm sure it's going to cause a sakana. So I think it's better this year. We should just be mekayim hashbasasa b'chol davar, crush up a little kazayis atu of chametz, and flush it down the toilet like we do when our Pesach Chaliyas b'Shabbos. So we don't burn it. We do whatever's left over Shabbos morning. We do hashbasasa b'chol davar. We flush it down the toilet. So I think we should do the same this year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Just a clarification on something before we get into Tfilos and Pesach and other things. Somebody wanted a clarification, and we had spoken about this before, that when being mafkir, if I remember correctly, you said the bezdin does not have to be in the same room with the individual, and it could be done over the internet or telephone.
I think so, yeah. As long as you notify 3 people about it. And theoretically, one of them lives in a neighborhood, one of them lives down the block or across the street, so he can come over. He lives in the same building if you live in an apartment building. You should really leave the kalim that you bought, leave it in the hallway, leave it on the steps to your house for 15 minutes, and say you're mafkir it. So one person theoretically could walk over if he wants to, and he can pick it up. And the other 2 people heard that you were mafkir it. So if they're also in the neighborhood, 2 have to be kosher le'edus. The one of them who has theoretically the ability to be zechem and a hefker can be a relative of yours, but the other 2 who are going to serve as the Eidim, theoretically serve as Eidim, so they have to be kosher Eidim. It can't be women, and it has to be men who are not related to each other, not related to the one who's being mafkir. Shouldn't be related to one who wants to be zechem and a hefker. Theoretically, could be zechem and a hefker. Mm-hmm. But as long as the 3 people know about it, and you leave it out, the minig is when you're mafkir, let's say in Shnas HaShmita, when you have the Perish Shvius, and come Shas HaBir, the year after Shemitah, so then you have to be mafkirit. Every fruit and vegetable has its own Shas HaBir. So when you have to be mafkirit, so the minig is that you, in Eretz Yisrael, that you put it outside on the doorsteps and you mafkirit, you leave it outside for 15 minutes, and then you take it back in. So here also, you mafkirit, leave it outside for 15 minutes, so theoretically someone can come and take it. No one's going to come. But theoretically, someone can come and take it. And theoretically, the other 2 people can serve as the Eidim that you declared that you made it Hefker. And that you even fulfill the Din Midirabbanan, that Hefker has to be in the 3 people have to know about it, yeah.
Okay, somebody wrote in with a question just to clarify the beer chametz that we discussed a couple of minutes ago. If a person does have chametz, Erev Pesach, that they're going to put out in their own garbage cans, then and it won't be picked up until Yontif. So do they need to put bleach on that chametz and make it nisam achilas kelev?
It's a good idea.
Do they have to be mafkir?
It's a good idea. We really shouldn't just rely on being mafkir. If you're mafkir and it's still in our garbage can, that's not right. So more correct is you should throw some lighter fluid or bleach on it to make it nifsam achilas kelev. That's right.
Okay, thank you. A few questions with regard to Tfilos for Pesach. For those who have the minig of saying Hallel Pesach night in shul with a bracha, can they say Hallel at home? And if they do they make a bracha?
No, the minig to say Hallel in shul is only if you have 10 people. If you don't have 10 people, we're going to say Hallel in the Haggadah. The whole idea of saying Hallel before the Bir Agra writes like that. Rav Soloveitchik used to point that out. Whenever there's a mitzvah, Pisumi Nisa, so it's preferable to fulfill it in a grander scale instead of just lighting the Erev Chanukah, each one at home. So you light in the shul when everybody's together in connection with the tefillah. So here also, reciting of the Hallel is part of the Haggadah, that's Pisumi Nisa. So if you say the Hallel in shul, that'll be even a bigger Pisumi Nisa. But if there's no minyan, so then you don't say the Hallel twice. You don't say it after Ma'ariv, then again in the Haggadah. You say it in the Haggadah.
Okay, thank you. Yisker, we know, can be recited b'yechidus, so saying it when you're davening on Yontif is not a problem. Some Rabbanim wanted to know if it would be appropriate to have a Zoom community Yisker taking place on Chol HaMoed.
Okay. If they think it would be okay, why not? It's not inappropriate. If they want to do it, it's fine.
Thank you.
It's important. The essence of the Yizkor is that tzedakah. We should all give extra tzedakah this year. Tzedakah tatzal imavis. We all need many zchuyot as we can get. So tzedakah is one of the biggest zchuyot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, if I heard about your psak correctly, even though you suggested saying Avinu Malkeinu, you do not suggest continuing with Avinu Malkeinu during Chodesh Nisan?
I think probably we should not. I think we should still we celebrate all Chodesh Nisan as a yontif. We don't say Tachnun. I wasn't there, but I imagine that in the concentration camps, those who were able to daven, they probably didn't say Tachnun during Chodesh Nisan. The Chodesh Nisan we celebrate B'Nisan Asidim Le'Higol. We celebrate Al Shem HaAsid. So we should celebrate now also the whole Chodesh Nisan. We should continue saying that Pirkei Tehillim, that the Rabbanut singled out, all those Prokim of Tehillim. I think just like Tachnun is, we don't say an Yontif, so the whole Chodesh Nisan has an aspect of a Yontif with respect to Avinu Malkeinu also, probably.
Okay, thank you. With regard to Tfilas Tal, how should a person be noheg with regard to Mashiv HaRuach in Musaf on the first day of Pesach? Is it permissible to say Tfilas Tal either before davening Musaf or afterwards?
My impression is that the Tfilas Tal, that's a piyut, a beautiful piyut. That piyut was composed to be recited b'tzibur. I don't think you say it b'yochid. I don't think there's an iser. But I think the minik only was that you say it b'tzibur. Usually to change, to start saying the same Talamatam and Baruch Aleinu, that's She'ela, that's Bakoshas Tzarachim, so that you don't need the Koyach HaTzibur. When it comes the time, when it comes December 4th, or Zayin Cheshvan, and you need the rain, so you say the same Talamatam Levracha. But to change Mashiv HaRuach, Morid Atal, to change the Mechalka Chaim Chesed, the Rav Soloveitchik said that's Ta'ori Hashem, you're describing the Rebbeinu Shalom. So if you're going to change the description of Elokus, we change it the way he appears to us. So in the wintertime, when it's rainy season, so then we describe him as the Mashiv HaRuach Morid HaGeshem. In the summertime in Eretz Yisrael, it doesn't rain at all, so you don't describe him if it doesn't correspond to your perception. So you change the description of Elokus, but to change the description of Elokus sounds a little bit as if it's a different God, a different religion. So you need the koyach, that's a Rav Soloveitchik explained, so you need the koyach hatzibur to change it. So that's why it says in Shulchan Aruch that if a person is davening at home, he shouldn't on Shmini Atzeres or on Pesach, he shouldn't change to Mashiv HaRuach at the Morid Atol until he knows that in Shul they changed already. If the tzibur changes, we don't think that they're switching religions. They're not switching to a different God. The tzibur is changing the nusach because the description of Elokus should correspond to the perception. The perception is different in the winter and the summertime. But here we don't have any tzibur. We have maybe there's a minyan somewhere in the world where they're davening with tzibur. There probably are some minyanim somewhere. A big family, they have 10 men maybe. So we have no choice. So we just switch when we daven Musaf. We switch. I don't think there's a minik to say the piyut for Tal if you're not bitzibur. If you want to say it, you can say it. I don't think there's an isa, but I don't think there's a minik to say it.
Okay, and we should stop saying Mashiv HaRuach for Musaf or wait till Mincha?
I think we should. That's always a question because there was no hachraza. So in some shuls they do make a hachraza. It says if you daven nusach sfar, then the sfarim say Morid Atol, so then there will be a hachraza before. If you daven nusach Ashkenaz and they don't say Morid Atol, so it's not right to say don't say Mashiv HaRuach Morid HaGeshem. So that's why they do say Mashiv HaRuach and Musaf also. But I think maybe for the first day, everybody on Shmini on the first day Pesach, everybody should say by Musaf Morid Atol. The din is that Taisus and Tainus quotes the Yerushalmi that if in the middle of the winter, when you're supposed to say Mashiv HaRuach Morid HaGeshem, by mistake a person only said Morid Atol, so b'diavad is Yotzei. So say Marid Atol. It's not a good idea to say all summer long Marid Atol, because then when you switch to say Mashavach Marid Ageshem on Shmini Atzeres, if you forgot, but you said Marid Atol, so you're Yotzei B'Diavad. So the Ashkenazim, all summer long, they don't say Marid Atol at all. So they, a lot of times, they'll forget. After Shmini Atzeres, they'll forget to say Mashavach, and then they have to repeat the Shmini Atzeres. But if all summer long they're saying Marid Atol, so then they're used to it. So even if by mistake they don't say Mashavach, we're going to say Marid Atol. So B'Diavad, that's good. So, and the Gemara says it's a Rishus. The Gemara says Marid Atol in the summertime is a Rishus. Moshe Feinstein has a tshuva where he writes that one who davens Nusach Ashkenaz should not say Marid Atol in the summertime, because the Nusach Ashkenaz is that you don't say. But others find that surprising. The Gemara says it's a Rishus. What do you mean? Minig Ashkenaz is that you don't have to say, but the Gemara says, bottom line, that it's a Rishus, so you may say. So my personal practice is I daven Nusach Ashkenaz, but I always say Marid Atol the whole summer long. So I think that here, where there's not going to be any hachraza, and there is no tzibur, not going to be any hachraza. So it's best, at least Musaf on the first day Pesach, we should say Marid Atol, at least on Musaf. Because even if you're still supposed to say Mashavach Marid Ageshem, so but you have a Yachot Marid Atol. In the summertime, it's always a rishus to say. So you're safe. If you say Marid Atol, you're safe either way.
Right, thank you. And the recitation of Kakeli, is that done b'yechidus or not?
No, I don't think so. No, that's piyutim for the tzibur. I don't think the yochid.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. If someone lost their sense of taste, which is a common effect of coronavirus, can they say a bracha on eating maror, or is tasting the maror necessarily ikuva?
No. The taste is not me'akev. I don't think so. The Gemara talks about ta'am. That doesn't mean you have to be able to taste. Mm-hmm. If you lose your sense of smell and you can't smell the psamim, then you can't say a bracha. But the mitzvah mar is to do achila. The Gemara just says if the mar was cooked and it no longer has the taste that it had when it was raw, so then it's possible to be out to the mitzvah because it doesn't taste like mar. But you don't have to taste the flavor of the mar. I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. A very sensitive question. While the olam is bitzar, is there any restriction on physical intimacy with one's spouse?
The Pashta says that there should be for those who have already fulfilled Peru V'Rivya. The Pashta says that it should be, unless it's Leil Tfilasa, or unless it's the Isha's Mishtokekas Mi'od L'Baila, then it's a real Chiyavayna. But if it's not Leil Tfilasa and it's not Mishtokekas, more correct is that they should abstain from being together, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at a couple of questions that people wrote in. They're asking to be mavara certain things that were recited. With regard to Yisker, can we say the full text on Chol HaMoed with Kel Maleh? And what about during Chodesh Nisan?
In Yisker, we usually do say Kel Maleh Rachman, I think. No, that's the minig.
Yes.
Chodesh Nisan, probably the minig is that you don't say. I don't know. You have to ask a practicing rabbi. I think the minig is in Chodesh Nisan, you don't say.
Right, but
Yisker, we do say.
Okay, thank you. Somebody was asking about Shnayim Nikra Ve'echad Targum. Two different questions. The one question is, should a person read the Parsha a third time in addition to that? And the other question that somebody had sent in before was, is it even necessary to continue with Shnayim Nikra Ve'echad Targum, because the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch is that it's when you have to be mishatif with the tzibur, and if the tzibur is not reading the parsha because all the shuls are closed, is such an Inyan of Parshas Hashavua is not circumstance.
I think there is one opinion in the Rishonim that the Shnayim Nikra Ve'echad Targum is exactly for us, for one who lives in the farm and he lives far away from the shul and he's not going to hear Kriyas HaTorah. So he should say Shnayim Nikra Ve'echad Targum. One who goes to shul, there was such, I think the Rabban has like that. One who goes to shul on Shabbat doesn't need the Shnayim. So we don't follow that opinion, but for sure we should do the Shnayim Nikra because we're not going to hear Kriyas HaTorah. In the days of the Tanoim, the days of the Gemara, they used to have a Meturgaman. So you used to hear on Monday and Thursday they heard Kriyas HaTorah. Then on Shabbos they heard Kriyas HaTorah again, a second time. And those who don't go to shul, so they're going to miss the Shnai Mikvah and they're going to miss the Echet Targum, the Turgum on Shabbos. So I think we should still continue to say Shnai Mikvah Echet Targum, yeah. What was the Shaila? Will you gain anything by saying the Parsha a third time on Shabbos? I don't think so. In Shulchan Aruch and the Hilchas Kriyas HaTorah and Orach Chaim and the Kuf Lameds there, so the Ramah, there's a Machlekes, the Rambam and the Rambam. There's a steer in the Rambam. The Rambam in the Tshuva writes that you can learn Kriyas HaTorah from a puzzle of Sefer Torah. You don't need a kosher Sefer Torah. And the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah writes not so. In the end of Hilchas Sefer Torah, he writes what's a kosher Sefer Torah and what's the relevance of whether it's kosher. Relevance number one, are you in fulfillment of the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah? Every Jewish man is obligated to write a Sefer Torah. Number two, can you use it for Kriyas HaTorah? Has to be kosher. So the Kesef Mishnah quotes the Tshuvas HaRashba, who points out that there's a contradiction between the Tshuvas HaRambam, where he says you don't need a kosher Sefer Torah for the mitzvah Kriyas HaTorah, and the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah. So the Rashba writes in the Tshuva, quoted by that Kesef Mishnah, that the Rambam apparently changed his mind. Bialdusa, when he was younger, he thought that you don't need a kosher Sefer Torah, and he writes that that's the common practice in many Sephardic communities. And Biziknusa, he wrote that he changed his mind. He said you needed a kosher Sefer Torah. During the Second World War, the JWB, the Jewish Welfare Board, they used to sponsor all the chaplains in the army. So they put out a little book of Piskei Halacha, I think it's in English. So the JWB used to be controlled, maybe still is, used to be controlled by Reform and Conservative. There were hardly any Orthodox chaplains then. So they wrote there that you can learn Kriyas HaTorah with brachas, even if you only have a printed Chumash, because the Rambam says like that in the Tshuva. It's true, the Rambam in the Tshuva says like that, but we don't follow that Rambam. We follow the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah, that you need a kosher Sefer Torah. So the Beis Yosef in Hilchas Kriyas HaTorah quotes from the Mahari Beirav, that what if you lay in the Sedra, in the middle you find a mistake. So you have to put away the Sefer Torah, take out a new Sefer Torah, but b'di'evid, you already laid a couple of aliyahs, so b'di'evid, we rely on the Tshuvas HaRambam that you were yotze with what you laid from the puzzle of Sefer Torah, and you only have to lay in a new Sefer Torah, the rest of the aliyahs till the end of the Sedra. So b'di'evid, we rely on that. But l'chatchila, we would not say a bracha over a puzzle of Sefer Torah. So then the Ramah says, what if a community simply doesn't have a kosher Sefer Torah? So he says, let them lay without brachas, let them lay the whole Kriyas HaTorah from a Chumash. Because according to the Rambam in the Tshuva, before he was Chayzer boy, you can be Yotze Kriyas HaTorah from a printed Chumash. You don't need a kosher Sefer Torah. But here we don't have a minyan. Everybody is alone. We don't have a minyan. So if Taka, there are 10 men all together in one family in one location, okay, and they don't have a Sefer Torah. So let them do like the Ramah says. Let them lay on Shabbos. Got a bracha with that. But if people are beli minyan, so I don't think saying you already said Shnai Mikvah Echet Targum. Why should you say the Sedra a third time on Shabbos? I don't think you get anything by that. Mm-hmm. The Ramah is only if you have a minyan, but you don't have a kosher Sefer Torah.
All right, thank you. Just a couple of questions of clarification. With regard to Mechiras Chametz, somebody was concerned that if a non-Jew is unable to leave his house, if the non-Jew who bought the Chametz is unable to leave his house because there are restrictions on the streets, would it be better to put is it kosher to sell Chametz to a non-Jew this year if the non-Jew won't be able to come to the house to get the Chametz? If yes, is it better to put it in the garage where he can come in without being in contact with people?
That's a good idea. Okay. To put the Chametz in.
Okay, thank
but
you.
strictly speaking, even if you didn't do that, it's also a good mechira.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can a person sell the Mechiras Chametz with a non-Jewish woman?
Yes. In fact, the Machtas HaShekel, the commentary on the bottom of the page on the Magen Avraham, points out that we do 6 kinyonim when we sell the Chametz. So one of the kinyonim is Chatzer. So we rent the apartment where the chametz is, and we makna the chametz to the guy where the kinyan chotzer. So why do we have to have another 5 kinyanim? Let's just do. The reason why we do 6 because each kinyan has a pickbook. There's a questionable. Each one is questionable. So what's the pickbook on kinyan chotzer? So the Tzayis and the Receivers both quote from the I forgot the name, from one of the early Achronim, that the Gemara says in the first parak in Bab Metzia, the Chotzer is mitam shluchai, and since in shlichus lenachri, so nachri cannot be kind with a kinyan Chotzer. So the Receivers both say that it's incorrect because there's a beferish Gemara Maseches Avodah Zarah that's selling wine to a nachri. So if you pour the wine into his kli, he's kind of with a kinyan Chotzer. Chotzer is not only if it's in his house, if it's in his keli, it's also kinyan Chotzer. So beferish Gemara the Chotzer is kind of. So some gedalim what I mentioned before, the commentary, the Machzah Shekel on the Magen Avraham has this, and if you gedalim had that practice, they would sell the chametz to a non-Jewish woman, dafke to a woman. Why? Because we paskin a strange psak in Chosh Mishpat. The chotzer of a man is mitam shlucha, chotzer of a woman is mitam yadai. So even though ein shlichus la'akum, so a male nachri cannot be kaina with a kinyan chotzer, according to this suggestion. But a female nachris could be kind of with a kinyan chotzer, because chotzer mitam yad. So some dafke had that practice to sell dafke to a nachris. How'd they do it? Another one of the 6 kinyanim is that you shake hands. So how'd they shake hands with the woman? They probably wore gloves. Okay. I think they quote the Chasam Sofer had that practice, dafke to sell to a non-Jewish woman, not to sell to a non-Jewish man, because of this Machzah Shekel.
Thank you. So going back to the question with which we started in terms of the triage, and Rav Schachter said that if the 95-year-old was not yet put on the respirator, then you wouldn't have to do that because you know that a younger person is going to be coming in a little bit later. The question was posed, isn't the older person a chorah lefanenu?
Yeah, but the other one is going to come within 2 hours. The other chayla is going to come also. I know that by saving this one's life for a few hours or for a few days, I'm going to be taking away this respirator from the younger person. I don't know who the younger person is. I know for sure someone else is going to come later. Mm-hmm. So I think we're mechuyev to save it for the one who's going to come later. I think so.
Okay, thank you. Somebody wrote in with a personal question in terms of Tevilas Kalim in the Charles River. He said the source of the river is Echo Lake in Milford, Massachusetts, which is a man-made lake which is fed by natural streams and underground springs. Water is piped from the lake's dam to start the river. So once to know if that would be kosher for Tevilas Kalim.
So the river from the ocean?
The source of the river is a lake that was originally it's a man-made lake that is fed by natural streams and underground springs. And the water is then piped from the lake.
And the natural streams come from melting snow or rain, or comes from under the ground sources?
He said both.
I don't know. You have to figure out. You have to look in your day Hilchos Mikvot. I don't know offhand.
All right, thank you. And then the final question, and this is a question, I guess, in general. We say Yisker on Yontif. We make a Malay on Yontif. How is it that Yontif was an exception? We don't make Malays the entire Chodesh Nisan. We don't make
right.
So
yes.
Is that the?
It's a strange minig. I don't know. It's a very good question. Yeah. Someone asked me to mention in today's session that many of the barbershops are closed, so a lot of us are going to need a haircut. And if everything blows over in the middle of Sira, are we allowed to take a haircut then? So can we observe the other 33 days? So Moshe Feinstein in his Sefer writes, a lot of people are familiar, he writes, based on the Chasam Sofer's practice, that you can switch from one year to the other which 33 days you want to observe. even though you normally observe the first 33 days till Lag B'Omer, but if everything blows over during the first 33 days, let's hope, before then, so then you can observe the other 33 days. But and Rav Soloveitchik said that there are three different levels of Avelis, the Shiva, Shloshim, and Yud Beis Chodesh, and the poskim say that it says in Shulchan Aruch, minig is to observe Miktsas Avelis during Spheres. So Miktsas Avelis means it corresponds to Yud Beis Chodesh, the lightest form of Avelis. So we all know that in Yud Beis Chodesh, one is permitted to take a haircut if it's Yigar B'Chaveirav. If he looks so bad that he really needs a haircut. So how long is that he looks so bad? So the Ramah says if it's 3 months since he last took a haircut, what is the share of 3 months? So Moshe Feinstein writes, he thinks that probably in the days of the Ramah, they probably took a haircut every month and a half. So if you wait twice as long as you normally wait, 3 months, that's called Yigar B'Chaveirav. So Moshe says that today many people take a haircut once a month. So if you wait 2 months, that's already Yigar B'Chaveirav. So Rav Soloveitchik used to shave. We all know the Rav used to shave when he was in the earlier years, when he didn't have after his wife died, he had a full beard. In the earlier years, he just had a Van Dyke on the bottom, and on the side he used to shave. He used to shave in Svira, because Maram Shik writes in the Shuvas that as far as shaving is concerned, you have to wait 3 months or 2 months. For a person who shaves all the time, so after a couple of days, it's already called Yigar B'Chaveirav. So if everything will blow over in the middle of Sphira, and people will really need a haircut because they haven't taken a haircut in 2 months, 3 months or so, that's already Yigar B'Chaveirav. So then we would be allowed to take a haircut, even though we usually don't take a haircut in Sphira, but that's Yigar B'Chaveirav. So one of the Rabbanim asked me to mention that in this session today. Okay.
Thank you. And just the final question, would that apply to Chol HaMoed, because the person did not have the opportunity, as if, for example, as if he was coming out of a prison, couldn't do it, so he could get his haircut Chol HaMoed as well?
I think so. The Gemara says the klal is, when is one, usually you're not allowed to take a haircut on Chol HaMoed, but if it's Einis de Muchach, if it's an Einis that all the people in the neighborhood are aware of, why he wasn't able to take the haircut before, then Einis de Muchach, so he's allowed to take the haircut on Chol HaMoed. So here, everybody knows that all the barbershops were closed. Everybody knows about it. So if everything will blow over on Chol HaMoed, we will be allowed to take a haircut on Chol HaMoed, yeah? Then you won't even need Yigar B'Chaveirav if you need a haircut, right? Okay. But if it'll be after Chol HaMoed, and it's serious, then in Avelos, you have to wait till Yigar B'Chaveirav. Yigar B'Chaveirav, Bayas, is around 2 months.
Okay. Thank you so much. Rav Schachter, thank you so much for your time. I know I speak on behalf of the over 100 rabbis that had called in during your presentation, that we wish you health and strength and rest, so that you can continue to serve Klal Yisrael in the important work that you're doing.
We should all be healthy. Everyone should be healthy. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.